Aloha! Welcome to MegoxCast. I am your host, John, joined by,
Carlos Hernandez.
oh yeah, for this episode. Today, we will talk about the state of the film industry. Now, Carlos Hernandez, talk a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a film student. I did go with you to College of the Canyons. I'm gonna be going soon to Northridge, and yeah, I'm gonna be hopefully pursuing my career as a writer director.
That does sound like a good time. Um, do you want to just hop right into it?
Yeah, if you want to hop right into it, if you want to bring up what's the
Oh,
first subject.
oh yeah. The streaming services. Um, we all use them. You know, there's a bunch of them. It's kind of oversaturated at this point. I have basically all of them. What about you, Carlos? Do you have some of them? What's your thoughts? Would it be?
I have maybe like three, and I don't pay for any of them. Um, but yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement because they there's no real reason for there to be for there to be as many streaming services as there is. I mean, I think because there's Peacock, and then I think CBS has its a specific one, and then there's Paramount, and then there's some stuff that you could see on what was the other one? Was it Amazon?
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, they there's it's one thing to have like competing streaming services. For example, Disney and HBO Max, Netflix, Amazon Prime, right? I feel like that's good. But then you have all these other mini ones that are technically all owned by the same company. And you're just kind of like, why not just combine it? That way it's more convenient for people, and then you can have a much more clear competition. And honestly, at that point, also, most people are probably going to have the competition anyway. So,
Hmm.
and then, what was I gonna say? And then there's like Tubi and shit like that, which I actually kind of like because it's free and it's basically like normal TV, but you don't have to pay for anything outside of your internet provider. Um, and so that stuff I'm cool with. Tubi and
Showtime?
there's another one, huh?
Showtime?
No, no, Showtime's like a big
Oh
one.
yeah.
Tubi is more like a off-brand one that's just like you just watch random movies and shows that honestly probably is the only way to watch some of that stuff
Is it
sometimes. I think
Roku one of
there's
those,
some
or is I don't think that
Roku.
one's
I think Roku
available.
might be. I think it might be. I think there's one called Cracked. I don't know if it's still
Oh
around,
yeah, I
but
love it being cracked. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, exactly.
Oh yeah, you get it. You know what I'm saying? Um, no, I get what you're saying. Like there are a lot of them, but at the same time, I think Hulu and Disney is merging, so that's interesting.
Which is a good thing. Yeah, I think that's what they should have done in the first place. I think Hulu should just be like a separate section on Disney Plus that has more or less Disney brand stuff and maybe even more adult oriented stuff.
Oh
Um,
yeah, like Family
I
Guy.
think it's just a matter. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just a matter of being able to section things off and making it user friendly, which I guess has just been thrown out the window for more than just the streaming services. But yeah, I think that's my main thing is that they uh, they definitely need to streamline everything. I mean, which was the whole point of streaming services to begin with. But I guess for the sake of making a buck, just make it as difficult as possible, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, who doesn't love making the market difficult, with all these different cereals, different sodas, you know what I'm saying? Is there a difference in
Exactly.
your opinion between the market of like let's say I mean the supermarket, just where it's like like just a bunch of cereals and a bunch of different kind of sodas, on a rack. Is that different than like just having all these different streaming services, or is there like a reason why that works and streaming services really don't when it's oversaturated like this? What's your thoughts? Maybe it's the same.
That's food, that's not art. That's yeah, there is a difference between, like, the stuff that you get at a grocery store and, and entertainment
Yeah.
and art. I
A
think
lot of
the
people
stuff
just
that you
see
get
it
at a
though. I
grocery
mean,
store
if you think about it though, a lot of people just see it as something you can just consume and not something you can like, enjoy.
sure, but the consumption is different.
Yeah.
The consumption I mean, you need food to live,
Do
right?
you think people see it that
You
way
don't
though?
need to watch what? That you need to watch something to live?
No, the consuming, content in that way and not like, just watching
Yeah,
stuff.
I think people kinda look at it like,
You think that hurts the art, or you think it really doesn't matter how they see it?
no, it definitely hurts it because, what happens is I don't know if we're gonna be talking about this later, but there is that feedback loop between, you know, studio content creator and audience.
Mhm,
And if the audience kind of like has this like misplaced sense of demand, like they're like in a drugstore and they're not getting a certain deal, that can affect the creator by not having the opportunities because the studio wants to adhere to that. And then what happens is the creator is ostensibly the middleman.
mhm,
The middleman is really the studio because they provide the money and the resources for the actual creators to create for the audience, and then the creators still need to adhere to some extent to the audience. And so, but the creators in between the big and the small, right?
yeah.
And so what happens is the studios just kind of go, well, fuck the creator, and we'll just listen to the people. But they don't really get anybody that actually wants to make any of the things that the people want to have because the people don't know what they want until it's actually in front of them. And then you just have this feedback loop of just, inane, simplistic garbage, either thinking that it's high art or thinking that it's actually, doing some kind of representation. And so, uh, yeah, I think it's detrimental because when you do that with food, it's actually a good thing. When you do that with food or any other kind of commodity that you need, like hygiene products, it's a good thing because you need that stuff to live and to you know, be clean, I guess, and you need to be able to get it at an affordable price and have that thing be a quality product still. And a good amount of variation can actually help with that because if you don't want to get something that's a brand product, you can still get an off-brand product. It's basically the same thing. It just doesn't have the picture of the mascot or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so that's fine for that. But when it comes to art, there's a much more I guess, unspoken relationship, between, creator and audience, and I think people tend to forget that, especially when they wanna all kind of feel, like, so self-righteous, whether that be creator or audience, and then studios just kind of look at it more like it's the studios really that look at it more like a grocery store because they have to, because that's the only real thing that they have any kind of control with. They can't really control the creator and they sure as hell can't control the audience. So, they look at it like that, and I think the audience who think that they're savvy, think that they know all, they know what's up, kinda wanna think of it like the studio, and that just fucks things up, so no, I don't personally believe that it's the same. I think there's a huge difference, or at least just a subtle enough difference to make a huge impact. But I do feel that other people think otherwise, and uh, it's just detrimental to the actual art form.
Oh, yeah. No, no. I I get what you're saying with the feedback loop, because I mean, people may know what they want, may think they know what they want, but at the same time, what they want may not be something meaningful, you know?
What they want might not be exactly how they actually want it. I mean, if you look at all the things that exist, especially if we just take like film, for
Yeah.
example, nobody knew that they wanted Star Wars, Raiders, Back to the Future, The Shawshank Redemption, Titanic, whatever, right?
Mhm.
Until that thing was up in front of them on the screen, then they go, I want more of this, right? And it could be even kind of the same with adaptations, right? And so people don't know what they actually want. They have these vague notions of what they think work, but it isn't until it's actually up in front of them. And even then, they're still kind of like they don't know why it kind of works sometimes. And so, um, yeah, I think I think like I said, I think it's kind of up to the creator to make sure that they don't make anything that's a vanity project that it takes into consideration that because it's a communicative form. That's the main thing. With food, it's whatever, right? You need to buy the ingredients, you make it yourself. When you make the food, that's where the communication comes in. Buying the ingredients in the store, that's ends to a means to an end. Um, Film, any kind of like film, television, comic books, video games, even, it's communicating something to an audience. And so it isn't just about serving up, seeing iconography or, you know, creating a long take or whatever, right?
Mhm.
It's about actually trying to communicate something through the actual, through the story and the means in which you're telling it. And so that's like I said, it's a subtle difference. It's kind of nebulous in the air, but that makes it an impactful full one for sure.
Yeah, the the studios just see and the people just see it as something superficial, you know?
Exactly.
But it's
No,
something
absolutely.
is deeper underneath that is meaningful.
Yes.
Mhm.
100%.
I mean, if you think about it, art is kind of like that, you know? Like something can be pretty, but then there's something meaningful behind it. And maybe people just want that pretty thing, but then they see it and they get it and they don't get anything out of it and they're upset, even though they're getting
Or they
exactly what they
convince
want.
themselves,
Mhm. Or they
right?
convince
Or they
yourself.
convince
Mhm.
themselves. Yeah, they convince themselves, oh, it was worth it because I got to see Michael Keaton put on the Batman suit again.
Oh yeah. Oh, you don't think the Flash is going to be like you know, a masterpiece?
I think it's going to be a masterpiece genius.
Oh yeah. Whatever that means.
I think people overuse the word masterpiece and genius. They don't mean shit anymore.
Mhm.
Everything's a goddamn masterpiece, and every motherfucker behind everything is a genius.
You think so?
No, that's what. If you look online, that's what you'll see. Everything is either masterpiece genius, like Master Cake Theater, Master Pancake Theater, or it's just garbage. There's no like. It's either magnum opus, the tiniest tip of the tiniest tip of God's finger touching your brain, right? Or it's the worst thing since the Holocaust, which I guess apparently wasn't that bad, according to some idiots on the internet. But yeah, I don't. As far as the Flash is concerned, I don't care. I don't know if we'd be talking about that later, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we can move on from that, but before we do, you have anything else you'd like to say about like streaming services and your like hopes for it?
yeah. No, I just hope that they combine and they just make it more user friendly. I don't understand why it has to be so
Mhm.
difficult to make it kind of accessible for people who aren't like you know Gee, who aren't like us, who
Well,
I know where to go if I wanna find certain things, right? You know where to go if you wanna find certain
mhm.
things. But to somebody who just wants to not pay for a box and wants to have their favorite shows on TV, available, um, yeah, no, just to make it more, accessible and, not just a shit show, basically.
Mhm. I mean, it's also about money, so it may never happen.
Ultimately, yeah, no, that's the thing. Once it starts, affecting the pockets of whoever is actually in charge of those streaming services, that's when all of a sudden it'll be much more convenient to actually navigate, and there'll be a lot less.
I think that's another reason why streaming service exists. They want that confusion so that people pay more and stuff like that. The saturating the market. Because if we really think about it, at the end of the day, Disney owns basically everything. And
They own a good amount, yeah.
it's like they're making a lot and like anyone at because everything's like a pyramid. And I mean, I'm not gonna make any controversies here and any conspiracies. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, there's one guy that's getting all the money and everyone else is not. So those people,
It's more
you know,
it's more than one, but it is
yeah,
it's
you know what I'm
not as
saying?
many as
The
it should be
the
for, yeah,
few
no,
to the
absolutely.
million, and
The few on the top, right.
those people at the
Exactly.
top. those people are the ones getting the money from all these streaming services, and they know they need to saturate the market slash separate like themselves. You know what I'm saying? They need to like expand because maybe some people don't want HBO Max, but they want this thing. And if they own both properties, they're gonna find ways to get on both sides. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they get the
Right,
money. All right. And I feel like
right.
that's the problem. You know. So I think at the end of the day, they're only gonna make only a few if there's just only a few that are being used. But that may never happen because
It might happen one
yeah.
day. I think people will just it's all about convenience, and once that thing starts to feel inconvenient, that's when things change because that's when it'll start to affect the pockets of the people, like you said, like we are just talking about, and then that's when things will change. It's all just about time, pressure and time.
Hmm. Oh yeah, just like a diamond.
Exactly.
I don't know what I was trying to say with that. Anyway, let's go on to movie studios. Those movie studios, like god dang. I mean, we were talking about them just now, making all these streaming services, all that. But at the same time, they're the they're the evil ones, you know? Like, did you watch Mank? Like, I can't be asked. I don't know.
Yeah, I did watch
A
Mank.
banger, I gotta admit. And what's it called? I was actually gonna talk about this a little bit during it. Mank, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Hello Caesar. You noticed that trend, right? You know what I'm
As far
talking
as the
about?
movie studio,
The ones I've just talked about, yeah, that I've just referenced.
what about him?
It's a lot of directors now like talking about. I mean, even what's that one that just came out recently? That was kind of bad, but also kind of good. I heard Babylon. A lot of these directors are talking about the movie industries back then. Back then, yeah. Quentin Tarantino, the Coen Brothers, you know, even David Fincher. He was planning to do it
Right.
like a while, like 2 decades ago, but it's a trend that's growing. It's actually kind of a good idea that he waited, even though I know he didn't want to wait because, his dad wrote the movie. But at the same time, it's good that he waited because it became a trend, which I guess we'll talk about a little bit with these movie studios. But I just noticed that a lot. But
Yeah,
there's a director that wants to talk about back then Hollywood, you know, stuff like that. I don't know why. Maybe it's because back then Hollywood was a little fun. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't.
I think uh I think there's this self-aggrandizing kind of sense of like Hollywood mythology type stuff, and I don't know. As far as studios are concerned, though, I think the biggest issue is that, uh, like I said before, um, back in the day when they were bought out by corporations, it's kind of more or less sustained itself till now, as far as studios wanting to cut out the people who actually make the things that audiences actually go towards, right?
Yeah, they did.
Just to have the direct, you know, wants and needs of see, because people always think that the studios, there's always this like this throwing of the blanket of, oh, Hollywood, and they don't know what, and it's like that motherfucker that didn't come from Hollywood, that came from overseas, or that's an independent studio company that's based in Texas or something like that, right? It's but the thing is, the studios, big or small, always want to try to appease the audience more so than even the creators, but to a detrimental degree because they just want to kind of, service them without really kind of giving them any real, uh, uh, without giving them any real cultivated content. They just want to be able to give them. You either have the big studios that want to give them stuff like Michael Keaton as Batman again, or The Little Mermaid again, but this time she's black, or I don't know, Tom Cruise breaking his ankle and just flinging him around, right? I mean, who cares what he does or who cares who he is? It's just let's just fling his ass around. You either have that on one end, and on the other hand, and you have You have people who are reacting to that, and I think that's why you're seeing a lot of these kind of like movies about Hollywood, either back in the day or kind of in general,
Mhm.
because they want to show, see, these films are important and movies are important and they're not just fluff and they're meaningful because the people who make them, they're important.
Mhm.
And it never goes beyond that surface value. There are few that do that, that go beyond it and actually cultivate something that kind of make
Can
it
you give an example?
more melancholic. But for the most part, it's you either have that's one of the reasons why I think you see a lot of
Yeah.
films about
I was gonna
films,
say you have an
but I
example
think
that, goes beyond it and
well,
elaborate.
I was gonna actually get into
Oh,
the because there's that, right?
sorry.
Because I had the examples of the big studios. There's more than just a few different, like, ways that they just kinda try to pander. And then, with, kinda smaller films, it's always like a reaction to that. So you either have that or you have a film that's like has wonderful technique, long takes, stuff that they do in real time. They go to real places or whatever, the cold, the heat, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it's never in service of the narrative. It's always in the sense of like, look what I did.
Oh,
I
so
didn't make
dune?
no Disney puff piece. Look at me. I'm a real filmmaker. It's like, well, motherfucker, make a real film that actually has a story that I give a fuck about. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But it's trendy, which is the thing that I was going to get into was the social media aspect. You either have the trendy part of getting to see Michael Keaton as Batman, getting to see the Little Mermaid, but represented this time, getting to see, Tom Cruise flung around and shit, right? That'll trend and that'll be like because it's trendy. Or you'll have people who can put something together, or reference an era and then that'll trend. But that's that's fine for like if you're on Twitter or whatever and you need to get the fucking likes or whatever. But as a real content or as to cultivate something within the medium, if anything, it's taking away from it. It's sucking it dry and it's just making just this barren landscape of every now and again you get something that actually lives onto itself, which is what I was getting to. There are not a lot of films coming out from what I see this year at least that are unto themselves alive. That they have their own merits. They have their own kinds of goals they want to achieve that are beyond wanting to make $1 billion or wanting to just stroke the ego of the creator. And those to me are the films that are actually worth something. And that's what actually cultivates the medium as actually being something worth a damn.
Mhm.
And, I just look at the string of things that are coming out this year alone, and I'm just like, all of these things just feel like exaggerations. They feel like caricatures of what movies should be, as opposed to what movies can be.
Mhm.
That's not to say that there haven't been movies that came out this year that I feel, um, actually, do what a film is supposed to do. It just means that there's a fewer and far between now, as opposed to what I feel like in the 2010s, there used to be just so much more consistent. Um, but that once again has to do with the studios. You know, like I said, I've said this before. The studios for sure have a like a row of people that are just on different social media platforms, just trying to figure out what the audiences want, and they just kind of base their slate around that. Who can we get that can make something like that, or what can we bring back that'll make people feel like that? And they used to do that before, and so it's not like a new thing. It's not like it's worse now than it was before as far as you know them doing practices like that. It's just more like, it's much more expedited because social media cuts the middleman of having to bring people in. All you got to do is just get some fool, pay him a few dollars an hour, and then he just goes on Twitter and, whatever gets the most likes or whatever has the most following or whatever, you just make something around that. It sucks. And it's probably going to be like that for a good long while. Um, and there's just going to be a lot of shit looking back that, people are gonna scratch their heads like, "This was something that was, like, beloved," and it was just like, yeah, it was just, riding a wave at the time of, social media hype or, you know, some kind of, um, you know, uh, phrase that was kind of unwarranted.
Yeah. I was gonna say too, to tie back to my supermarket and an analogy, I was gonna say too, said like, they're giving them what they, giving them like simple things or whatever, just these things. And I was thinking like, it kind of is a little bit like it too, because it's kind of like how cheaper food is, it's unhealthy, and like sugary, and fatty, the more of the,
I
you
guess
know what I'm saying? And then like the more healthier food and everything that doesn't last as long, that's more expensive. You kind of have to go out of your way for it. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a surface level uh comparison, but
right.
at the same time I feel like it's kind of like similar in that sense because they're creating these things that are easy to make and everything, and then they sell it, and
I
they have
guess
these
the way that I
trendy
view it is
characters.
less right. I guess the way that I view it, if we were going to use a food analogy, because I've heard it before, I view it less as like high quality, low quality, and I view it more as like nutritional value. You can have, for example, something that's sugary, with a lot of good ingredients and high quality kind of, stuff, but it's still bad for you. You know what I mean? You could have like a chocolate cake that's like really like, um, well made, and it's like but it's still, low calories, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's the equivalent of like a art piece from like a high-end filmmaker who really went all out with the craft, but the story is shit. I don't give a fuck about the characters, and, even though I'm a cinephile and I appreciate a good long take or a solid transition or whatever, if there's nothing that's kind of imbuing it towards, I don't give a fuck, And it's the same thing. That's the low calories. You could go to a high end restaurant, get some bomb ass, chocolate cake that's made with the highest of quality of ingredients. But at the end of the day, that shit's still gonna not really go into anything outside of just, your hips or whatever, right?
Oh
And
yeah, or your
so,
thighs,
or your thighs, right?
buns and
And
thighs.
so it's to me, I view it more like that, where it's all about balance. It's all about also what you're striving for. Like I said, I'm more physical, and so I'm always constantly thinking about my diet like that, as opposed to, you know, um, as opposed to whether or not I'm having something that's high end or low end, that's completely irrelevant. It's about what your goals are. And so in this case with film, what it is that's kind of your aesthetic. And then also challenging it every now and again and doing it in a way where it's healthy just enough to where you're satisfied with it as opposed to, you get sick of something that you're challenging it with. You want to have variation and you want to be able to kind of adhere that variation to your needs and wants as opposed to, thinking that if you're gonna watch this newest Martin Scorsese movie and don't say like it's, the star next to the sun, right? That's gonna be like the worst thing in the world if you don't say that, if you don't
Yeah,
watch that, if you don't
I don't
appreciate
even
that.
think it's gonna be that
I
good.
mean, it could be. There's always that possibility because that's the thing. You give Martin Scorsese his due, and he's made
Hmm.
fantastic
He has.
movies, and he's made movies that also some people is not to their liking whatsoever. It's a film that meanders, it's a film that this, it's a film that that. Not everybody has to be on the same level of thinking everything that he's made is a masterpiece genius.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's much more to it than just like, "Oh, this was trash, it's garbage." It's like, nah, I mean, it just didn't hit the mark for whatever reason for me or for what it wanted to, strive for, what its thesis was in the beginning of the movie. So yeah, I just look at it with a lot more fidelity than just, products.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, because film isn't really a product. It's art.
Right.
Art
I mean,
and
it's sold
product.
as a product as an ex I'm sorry?
Art and product is like really hard to you know I guess separate because it is so
Well, I mean,
dynamic.
product is the excuse to continue making art because obviously people have to make money. These
Yeah.
things take a lot of time to make. The issue is the ballooning effect for all this stuff, the over millions and millions of dollars for even small things that, you know, should be going to people who are working really hard as opposed to, people who probably get money more on the back end than anything else on the upper scale. And so,
Yeah, like
yeah, it's a lot of
the Lemaitre,
like
I don't even know how to say the Lemaitre brothers or whatever, Lem it's not that. It's
Mario Brothers?
we're the Mario Brothers. No,
Yeah, the Mario
and
Brothers.
partying is our game. Or plumbing. No, I'm talking about the Lumiere, bruh, brothers. The one.
Lumineer?
Yeah, yeah.
Lumineer Brothers?
Those that created one of the first films. I mean, obviously they didn't create the
Yes.
first films, but it was just like a thing where they were making some money, but it was mainly just to entertain. Obviously,
No, absolutely.
it was kind of like that kind of thing, and it's like it started from that, and now it's like this big thing that runs our economy. I mean,
Right.
video games are also like that, but it's a little bit different there. I mean, that's the thing too. Like video games, it gets political, but I feel like with movies, it's a lot different. It's
No, absolutely.
because I feel like
Absolutely.
there are still people that create games and everything like that, and like it's still. I mean, there's more of that thing that you're talking about where it's someone's vision and it lives on itself.
Or you think that there's more of that in video games?
Yeah, than like movies. Yeah,
See, I don't wanna get into it too much because that would be its own separate topic about,
yeah.
like, the state of the video game industry, but I'm on the polar opposite of that.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I just feel like more movies are made that. I mean, I think less movies are made like the way you're saying than there are video games that are made that way. You know. But I mean, at the end of the
Right.
day, there's probably maybe at this point more video games than movies, but it might be the opposite. There. I mean, it's so hard to tell. There's so much of everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, with movie studios, I don't. They just make these decisions just because of their pockets, and their you know uh and their
Which isn't
audience.
necessarily a bad thing, it's just that the people who run them, they don't really kinda look at it like, if I were to ever run a movie studio, I would always make sure that, at the end of the day, it's creator driven.
Yeah,
And then you're just gonna have to take some hits because of that, but it'd be a lot more consistent, and I can almost guarantee you much more interesting, which would garner more people coming to view the movies
yeah,
than just having to constantly get, "Okay, well, the guy who did Chicago, let's get that guy to do The Little Mermaid." Stuff like that, you know?
yeah, exactly.
The guy who did, Moonlight, bizarrely, let's give him the prequel, the Lion King remake? I don't even know how that shit's spelled.
Yeah, I mean the one of the genius ones. I know you like that one where um what's his name? James Gunn created the Suicide Squad. That was a good decision.
Yeah, so that was James Gunn is an anomaly in
Mhm.
not just necessarily, big budget studio
Yeah,
filmmaking,
didn't
but
you
just in
compare him to
general.
like George Méliès? I'm like, what?
Yeah, I did because, George Millet, understood genre filmmaking, and he understood imagination, and he wasn't, embarrassed by the fanciful stuff of adventure films, fantasy films, science fiction films. It's the same thing with James Gunn. Both of them cultivated their work as opposed to feeling like they had to make it more serious and elevate it beyond it, or that they were embarrassed by it. Um, that's what I mean in terms of like, tonally, and I think, what they try to achieve aesthetically as well. In terms of the studio though, that was just a complete, you know, Warner Brothers was in a state of desperation, and they're just like, Disney's stupid enough to fire this guy. All right, fine, fuck it. Hey, what do you want to do? You want to do a Superman movie? You want to do whatever you want to do? And he was just like, I'm going to do the Suicide Squad because originally wanted to do the Suicide Squad. And so that was less a studio, good idea for a studio. I mean, and it was more of James Gunn wanted to do what he wanted to do, and the studio was just in a state of panic because all their big budgeted stuff, in particular with their DC stuff, um, was not working at all. And you can honestly trace that back all the way back to like Superman in the 70s, you can see all the kinds of reactions that they try to do with all their superhero stuff, leading them to making Zack Snyder be the head of it with their Man of Steel film because The Dark Knight worked and Christopher Nolan's that dude can make a pretty realistic Batman movie. We'll just do the same thing with Superman and give it to Zack Snyder. But they never looked at the details of any of that stuff, both with Chris Nolan and Zack Snyder. And what eventually you got was just a mess. And so, and what happened was the studio was panicking. The studios were panicking because if it were a mess, hey, who gives a shit? You know, Transformers movies are a mess, right? And they make a shit ton of money. But these things were a mess and they were losing a lot of money. And so, with that desperation, they were just like, look, man, just do whatever. We don't even care if it makes money at this point. We need it for our new streaming service, HBO Max. And
No, hey,
so
hey, it's called Max now.
at the time, it was HBO
It
Max.
was.
So I'm going to say, I'm going to be accurate to the history.
Yeah, you should be.
But that's that situation. That was an anomaly. That
Yeah,
wasn't even like,
it
that was no
wasn't
studio
yeah, it
idea.
wasn't a
That was,
studio idea, and the thing is, it would be better if the studios thought more like that. You know, they saw the success of Guardians, and they realized that he can make films that are like that. Because I mean, the Suicide Squad and Guardians similar in some aspects. I mean, maybe it is surface level, but maybe there is something deeper to that, like to Suicide Squad and
oh,
uh
there's a shit ton deeper
yeah,
to
and
the
it's like
Suicide Squad. Absolutely.
just making the decision of that. Like if they made that decision,
Oh, right, right.
would it just be surface level or would it be a deeper meaning? And maybe you know what you're saying is too, right? Like that they should make more deep um you know deeper meaning decisions when it comes to artistic creation, like maybe.
Absolutely.
But it's hard when they want to also not take risks. They just want to make whatever people want to watch, but at the same time what they want to watch is not what they actually want to watch. So but here's
Right,
what you were saying.
right.
All right, you want to go to the next topic?
Yeah, what's the
All
next one?
right, box office. It comes to box office, like the big boy movies that make the most amount of money, like James Cameron is just like taking advantage, bro. I don't even know how he does it at this point. He has like connections. That's the
Well,
thing.
the thing is, with like Avatar 2, I looked at the numbers. It actually didn't make that much domestically.
Yeah.
It made more overseas. And I was looking specifically where people always talk about China, but there's another area in which it's densely populated that people don't talk about, India. It made a shit ton of money in India also. And you can see why, because it's very kind of like spiritual, the Avatar sequel, Avatar in general. And I think the specific kind of iconography in which it's spiritual, I think kind of relates to the people of India.
Yeah.
And so they go in and they watch it multiple times because of that. And so I think that's another thing too, is that it's able to kind of go beyond just you know, at least, aesthetically, right? Again, it's able to go beyond just local perception and kind of connect on a much more worldwide level. Um, if it were Titanic, I don't think it'd be the same thing. Titanic, I think, made most money here. And so, um, yeah, I think I don't know if the other ones will make as much money. Um, because that's the thing too. It made what, $2 billion, right?
Mhm.
But I'd never heard of anybody talk about it. I mean, I'm sure if you asked people, they're like, "Yeah, I saw it," but nobody ever. I've heard more people talk about Fast X than I have,
Fast X. Oh my gosh.
for good or
We'll talk a
bad.
little bit about that later.
Um, but then Avatar 2. So I don't know what that means exactly for its cultural impact,
Yeah.
also, or at the very
Yeah,
least,
like this
being
box
interesting.
office really relate correlate with cultural relevance. Like does it? Not really. It's just money, just numbers.
I think at times it
I mean, yeah,
does.
times it does.
Other times it's I think
Like
more
where are the
recently
Mario
it doesn't.
Brothers and Plumber's Game? Like that one. They don't take all the fame. Actually, they did. They did take all the fame, bro. Can't be asked.
They took $1 billion worth of fame, yeah.
Yeah, bro. They're in the top 20, like worldwide. But when it comes to like Marvel, I feel like that one's kind of more accurate too. More accurate than like James Cameron. I feel like James Cameron just knows what to do. Like I think he wants to be there. I don't think I think after Titanic made a lot of money, I think he just wanted to be there. And that's what he did. Twice. Why not?
Beware.
He wants to be at the top. And that's what he did.
Sure,
And
yeah, and I
it's not
think
really like you said, it's not maybe domestically, but he wants that number. Nothing
yeah,
against him,
and
but he
I think
wants that
he
number.
right. And I think he wants it at the expense of the stories that he tells 'cause, I don't know about you, but I don't give a fuck about either of the Avatar movies, to be honest with you.
Oh my god! So you don't get so hurt about the whale and Avatar the way
Okay, so
what?
the whale was the coolest part. The whale was he was the best character of that second film, and to be honest, probably the first one too. He was.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I'm just saying overall, it's just no. I just got out of it. All right, so when it comes to like box office though, it's you know like I mean domestically, I guess I feel like because domestically is more important in some ways because if you think about it, our cultural impact of the world at the end of the day is more significant in some ways than other parts of the world. You know
I
what I'm saying?
guess. I mean, I think it's changed
Yeah,
now
yeah,
because
yeah.
especially with, a lot of Asian,
Mhm. Definitely. Like the
entertainment,
culture. But
right?
at the end of the day, though, we are kind of like creating that, um, you know, uh, I guess that void of just America. America, like just that kind of thing. We create a lot of
I
the
guess.
content that people watch.
The $1 billion animated film did take place in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah,
So I
like
guess there is that.
exactly. I mean, like, where is the Mushroom Kingdom supposed to exist? Nowhere else in the world.
Japan.
You're funny.
It's in Japan, I know it.
No, dude. There's no mushroom
It's
people
it's
in
it's hidden under a veil, kinda like,
stop.
in Wakanda.
Oh
It's
my
like a force
gosh.
field.
Dude, no.
Shigeru Miyamoto came from that place,
Oh yeah,
and
he
he
was
is one day before he dies, he's
is he
gonna
okay,
show the
that's actually
world.
a good point.
Imma own a Yoshi,
Is
dude. It's gonna be a
is
fact. Imma own a Yoshi.
is he so what you're saying is when he told that story, he is Princess Peach.
Exactly. The story of Peach is his
Oh
story.
my gosh, bro, I can't be asked, bro. Okay, whatever you say, Carlos. All right, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe it exists. Maybe it's a real thing.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, maybe Bowser
What's the ne
exists.
what's the next topic?
I feel like I want to talk a little bit more about the box office, and then we'll go there. Just
Oh,
the
okay.
main thing I was just gonna say is just like, I mean, box office. It really doesn't matter. Like with culture, like you were saying. I mean, it is kind of just like I mean, I don't know if you said this. I'm saying this though. It doesn't really matter if something's at the top if no one else agrees collectively that it's at the top in the sense of what they're going to talk about. You know what I'm saying?
I guess not even so much that, just so much more like when you have because I don't know, when you have a movie that's at the top and there's no real like people just go to see it, right? But there's no real like, I don't know, affection for it. It almost just seems like, yeah, you like it. It's like, yeah, I guess. I mean, because there's also that like, oh, well, it is at the top, so I guess, yeah, technically it is high quality, right? I mean, Everybody seems to like it, and it's like, "Nah, fuck that." There's plenty of things that go on the top that even do have some kind of cultural relevancy that I'm just kinda like, "Eh," not the good kind of cultural relevancy. Not that it's like, you know, morally bad or anything like that, but more in the sense of like, you know, it's not it's not shit. I mean, it's kind of relevant for right now because it's at the right place, right time. But outside of that, it's just kind of not much else outside of the little moment that it lives in. Um, but yeah, no, that was more my thing, I think. I don't think it has to be unanimous or something has to be unanimously loved in order to have like cultural relevancy. There's plenty of things that became cult classics that have always had cultural relevancy, more so than even the things that have been beloved. So it's a give and take. It all depends, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, I get you. I feel like just when it comes down to it, do you feel like movies that are culturally significant and make a good amount of money and are kind of the main thing, like for example, Cross the Spider Verse or Everything Everywhere All at Once, all those should those be at the top, money wise, or is it good the way it is, how it is, like how some of these films that are making the most amount of money are not in the main circle, or does it not matter?
I think it doesn't matter. I think at the end of the day, a movie's merit is never based around its box office.
Yeah.
If it does make money or if it does win awards, that's nice. But at the end of the day, it's the movie that matters, above anything else. It's not about, you know, that's some superficial ass shit that once again can get you trending on some kind of fucking social media site. But outside of that, I don't think that has any actual relevancy.
Hmm. Um, yeah, we can move to the next topic. Yeah, I know I got a little flustered there. Movie theaters. I work at a movie theater. I have fun there, We be chilling. I go to the movie theaters all the time with the homies, my boy Carlos. Oh yeah. Um, you know, I'll talk a little bit about that later, like when it comes down to like what people watch and stuff. But what's your
Mhm.
thing with movie theaters? Do you agree that some movies are just meant to be watched on the big screen with the homies and not streamed and bought? Because why would you stream and buy certain movies ever? Because it's not as fun of experience. Like we can even go into the thing that we talked about with Fast and Furious. Do we want to watch that at home? No. Do you want to maybe go a little bit into it?
Yeah, no.
Because we had a lot
I
of
think,
fun, we had a lot of fun talking about like
right,
with it, like at it.
right. We went to go see Fast X, our, people from our school as a way to kind of unwind, and, no, it was a great time. It was, and I think it wouldn't have been as good a time. I mean, maybe if we watched it at home, but I think watching it in the theater with other, people who paid and, to see this thing unfold on a big screen seemed to feel all the more ridiculous for when certain things happened, which created an atmosphere that made it all the more fun. So yeah, I think movie theaters are a great place for like a communal experience, and and I think it the only real issue with movie theaters is the pricing. It's ridiculous.
Excuse me, Regal
Everything.
Unlimited, yeah, after 2 visits, just pays for itself. So I don't know what you're talking about,
Oh,
Carlos.
okay. That's a good plug.
Yeah, 23.99. Alright, I'm just saying.
That's a lot of money
Yeah,
still.
that's a lot of money
Um,
still. Bro, if you go to the movies all the time, you can, get some of that free small popcorn, some of that free small soft drinks. Know what I'm saying?
I guess maybe. I don't know. I think I think if people talk about that, it's like, well, how come I can't just watch a movie at home
Mhm.
and eat at the same time? I don't have to pay for anything. I got my food
I
here,
feel like it's more
and
about
it's
the
like,
experience sometimes. I do actually
exactly,
agree that
exactly.
some movies are just can watch it when it hits streaming or something. But there are some movies where it's like it helps, especially when it's like a blockbuster. Like, when you want to hear when you're even watching an MCU film. I bet you don't really like this, Carlos, but like when someone's watching an MCU film or even a Star Wars film and then something happens that's like a reference and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," like that's fun.
No, 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 fuck that. That's not fun. You know what's fun? It Watching a movie, right?
Yeah.
I went to go see. We were talking about the Suicide Squad. I went to go see the Suicide Squad, and I overheard the people talking about. Oh, you could tell that they were basically there for Pete Davidson,
Yeah.
and I I knew because I know the director. I know James Gunn, his sensibility, and I'm like, oh, and yeah, sure enough, that fool's face came off. And when that face came off, there was no hooping and hollering of like, I know what that reference or whatever. There were just gasps, audible gasps. And that's what made it all the more fun and funny.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, what you're
because
referencing too is
people
kind of like a horror film kind of thing. That's also another kind
exactly
of
that I
film that
like
you would want to
that
watch
I like.
in the on the big screen with all the homies. Like you
Exactly.
wouldn't want to go.
I like
You
that.
don't need to watch a romantic comedy in the on the big screen unless it's something like Titanic that's like huge and like you got to see it there. You know
I disagree. I
what?
disagree. Like I said, the communal experience. So you go and watch a movie like that for a different reason. Maybe you don't even go to necessarily watch that movie itself, but it's for the communal experience. It's kind of the same thing with animated films.
I guess so,
Maybe
but
you
I
don't
feel
necessarily
like the
go,
specs do matter. Like when it comes down to like you know if it's like a big movie, you know what I'm saying? If it's a big movie that looks big, you gotta watch that on the big screen. But I do
oh,
feel
sure.
like the communal experience is very important. Like you were saying, with when it comes down to like Fast X, we were just laughing at it, having good time, like making fun of it. Like I mean, like there was a lot of scenes that were like goofy, and we were all like, "White, white, white, what the?" You know, it's like
Yeah, no, no.
same thing, and I mean, it's also like a cultural thing, you want to go and watch a movie, right? And you want to what's the word called? You want to dress up in suits, you know, go and watch a movie, Oppenheimer and Barbie on the same day, and you just do it because it's like an event, you know.
Yeah.
Even though it may take 5 hours, you want to sit through the whole thing.
Oh no, no, I wouldn't do that.
Okay,
I'm not a teenager no more. I got shit to
I
do.
got stuff to
I got
do.
things to do.
You can't just do everything the other days and don't take a break, and that's the day you break. I
No, fuck that.
don't know. All I'm saying is that it sounds like the perfect idea. Um. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, just it's just about the experience. Did you have any like questions for me, Carlos? Since I do work in a movie theater, I don't want to make this part all about me, but I gotta say I do know my way around a movie theater.
Yeah, I guess I was gonna ask uh since you worked at a movie theater, how it's been as far as people coming in and actually watching movies now that we're kind of in a
Yeah,
post-COVID
there
time,
are some people
how
that you
that's kind of
know,
affected it.
some people that still have their cards from 2019 or 2020. From because we don't even give out physical cards anymore. So then I know, oh, those
Hmm.
are like the old ones, the old uh card holders.
Hmm.
And when it comes down to it, I see a lot of people now with the phone or whatever, but it's a lot more people are uh are coming in when there's like a big movie or something. But some people do come in, they're like, hey, I haven't been since COVID. And it's like
Right.
surprising. It's like, how? There's been so many movies, and you're coming to this one? And sometimes it doesn't make sense. And I think it's a lot about the experience. Maybe they don't even care about the
Mhm.
movie. They just want to be with their friends or family, you know? Maybe they just want to get back into it, stick
Right.
their toe in the water, you know, before they swim. I don't know. But I do think a lot more people are coming in, and I really hope they, start coming in, because it's good business, means more hours for me, even if it's stressful sometimes at concession, at ushing. Like, dude, like, we gotta talk about ushing, bro. Legit, I can't, bro. You can't be leaving bunch of popcorn, bro, like underneath the seat. Like, that just feels like on purpose. I get like eating your popcorn and then it like falls between your crotch or something or whatever, or on your lap and then it falls underneath the seat. But like sometimes it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it sounds like the pits.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
So it's weird because it's like, I don't know. I mean, people are just not the smartest when it comes to going to a movie theater. I'm not. I don't want to get fired here, from my job. So all I'm gonna say is, it's just the fact that I wish they went enough so that they got the vibe. They got the vibe of us. Some people say that they don't think we're working hard enough, but I'm like, at the same time, if you come up to us, we're there. We're good.
Right.
We're good at that, I think, and that's what I think is also important too. The customer service. That people come there for. They come for the food that they can't really get anywhere else besides a movie theater. They come for the equipment in the movie theater room. Like, you don't have that acoustic paneling and big screen at your house. You don't have all that. You don't have
Some people do.
IMAX or 3D or. Uh, we'll talk about. I mean, yeah. Some people do. Me and Carlos know. But I'm just saying, it's like not everyone has that, you know? And no one would want to just do that because some people just do it casually. Unlike that one person we were talking
Right.
about, you know? That guy like lives movies. I'm just talking about like the people that like don't need to breathe it all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
All I'm saying. Movie theater important to the industry, And I think when it comes down to it, it really doesn't actually affect. I don't think the movie theater really affects the the movie making process, in my opinion. In some ways, it does, but not to a
It does in
negative
terms of
extent.
distri
I don't think. I
right,
don't
it
think.
doesn't
Yeah, not negatively. So
it does in terms of distribution.
yeah,
It actually does kind of
okay,
affect it a bit because the whole point is that certain smaller creators can't get their movies into big movie
yeah.
theaters
That's what
because
I do
the
hate about it.
studios wanna just kind of
Hmm.
yeah, and 'cause those are the ones that are gonna get the people to
Yeah,
come to see the movies, and
but
so, yeah, it's a
there are
whole
some smaller theaters for that, and I think that kind of makes it special to those movies. But at the same time,
right.
it would be cool to see them on the big screen at the main movie theaters. But I think there's just so many movies that are big. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to give those movies attention. Like,
Yeah, no, it's a whole
they
ecosystem of,
have to go to somewhere like the Lemley or something like a small theater because they can't do that. You know, they have to play ball. You know, but
yeah, no, it's a whole ecosystem as far as, um, you know, studios, creators, and then, then you have to take into consideration the distribution of movie theaters and what brings people to go see movies. And, if people aren't going to see the big movies, their mentality is, well, they're not going to see the small ones, which sometimes that's true too. And so I think it's also people not being honest with themselves and why people aren't going to the movie theaters exactly. And so, um, sometimes people just, or there are, it's a different time in terms of entertainment and how people consume media. And so that's where a lot of old school creators have to kind of, bite the bullet and put it on streaming because at least then people will actually watch it
mhm.
and engage with it. And so, yeah, no, that in and of itself is a whole can of worms.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like a good thing and also a bad thing. But how it is right now may be the best way to have it because there are these big films and they kind of have to be in the movie theater unless
Right.
there would just have to be less of those movies or just more movies at the movie
Which
theaters. But that's, I mean,
I think
once
that's
you
an
have
option. There got to be less of those
once you
movies.
have too much choice, I mean, once you have too many options, it's kind of like the streaming services. It's hard to, you know, yeah. So it's just difficult to talk about. All in one
Right.
sitting. But you want to go to the next topic?
Let's
All
do it.
right, sequels, remakes slash reboots. I gotta say, when it comes to sequels, I think they're not as bad as like when it comes to like remakes. Actually, wait, hold on.
What?
I no, I think reboots are not as bad, but I don't know. What do you think with sequels, remakes, and like reboots? Like, what's the worst? Like, when it
I
comes
think
to
reboots.
yeah.
I think reboots are the worst.
Oh, you didn't like
Um,
Ghostbusters, Afterlife or whatever?
which one is that one?
The newest Ghostbusters
Oh,
movie.
no, I did not like that one. Even though that one is technically a soft reboot because it's canon, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's reboots are the worst because you just take old shit and you remake it, but at the same time, you can sometimes make it a part of the old one, which just means that you just technically quote unquote continue it, but also just recycle a plot from one of the older movies or the older property. So it's kind of combined. It's like yeah, it has to be a new term because it's not a reboot is supposed to basically be, you know, a franchise that went downhill. Now they do another one, but it's divorced from the previous continuity. A remake is just that. It's a remake of something that came before. And then a sequel is also just that. It's a sequel that came before, but it's in continuity, right?
Mhm.
What they do now is they combine all three, where it's technically part of it, but also technically they don't reference anything about it. And it's also technically, you know, uh, a revamping of what came before it. So, it's all for the sake of just being able to establish or to take advantage of iconography. And Ghostbusters is probably that new Ghostbusters might be the worst offender of that. Maybe. I mean, there's so many of these goddamn things that I really just don't know anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
All the Disney remakes. What am I talking about? That's the worst. Those are the worst offenders of this bullshit.
Because
I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about those Disney remakes?
oh yeah, they're so good. I mean, I really wanted to see the Little Mermaid in live action with all the weird creatures CGI'd and also Blue Will Smith. Um
Oh, Will Smith is in the Little
no, I'm
Mermaid.
just talking about like Aladdin. Like, I wanted to see Blue Will Smith instead of Blue Robin Williams as an animated character. I wanted to see live action Blue Will Smith.
Oh, I
Um
thought I thought Will Smith played the crab.
what? They're never gonna put him in a movie again. Number one. The last movie he's ever in is like King Richard. I don't even think he's been in a movie.
That's not true. He was in a movie called Emancipation.
Well, they probably started production before the incident.
Maybe,
But you
but
know what
no,
I'm
that
saying.
fool's gonna be in a movie.
He is,
He's gonna
but
be
it's gonna be a while. Now, I mean, now,
Emancipation. No, I think this year.
yeah, but that, I mean, production probably like it was probably halfway into production by the time the thing happened, the event.
I think it was that big of a movie. I think he did the thing, and then they just said, yeah, fuck it.
Whatever. Anyway, I'm just saying they don't really want him too much in films, but he's gonna be in more. You're right. When it comes down to the other remakes, I mean, I guess Cinderella was all right, and Jungle Book was all right. Trying to think of like what I liked. I know I liked one of them. I don't know. Pinocchio was literally like why and
Yeah,
why Tom Hanks as Geppetto. Uh, but yeah, I mean those suck. Yeah, there's not really any like.
No, well, the issue with the Disney remakes is that, so growing up, I, uh, I was exposed to the Disney sequels that were coming out straight on video,
Oh yeah,
and,
were they
and the
canon?
Disney remakes, they were canon indeed,
Okay.
yes. And, the Disney remakes are combining that, the idea of just, I mean, those you'd have the films, right, that would come out in the theater that were artistically well done and well made and really kind of a lot of them took chances in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s. And, they weren't as profitable as the main 4, um, that tends to coincide with, quote, unquote, "the Disney Renaissance,"
Yeah.
right? But, um, they were all endearing. They all tried to, really push the medium of animation and even the Disney brand. And then you just have the straight to video crap, which was just like, did you like Aladdin? Here's 2 more Aladdin movies. Did you like, Beauty and the Beast? Here's like a dozen different like Beauty and the Beast animated compilations, right? And they put no effort into it because they were mandated to keep on brand, right?
Mhm.
It's the same thing with the majority of these remakes, where they can't really do anything creative because they have to stay on brand. The only real changes that they do is they want to make it more culturally relevant. And so they add in, diversity to it, which is in theory fine because obviously you want to see these studios implement what the world actually looks like, right? The problem is the way that Disney is doing it is very slapdash, just fuck it. Let's just put in, people of color here or a woman here. And it's less so because they care and more so, and even less so because it actually brings in money. I think it's more insidious than that. I think it's more so because back in the day, because Disney's been around since the 20s, right?
Yeah.
The 1920s, they have a lot of racist shit in their own past, and even a lot of their animated stuff, while not inherently racist, a lot of it they had white actors portraying people of color.
Mhm.
And so in this cancelable era, and because they know that a lot of their, most fervent fans would cancel a motherfucker in a minute for something like that, it's almost like, and they also wanna get rid of animation in general right now because animation doesn't make any money. It's like a three hitter. It's, adhering to, a mandate of the brand, trying to erase their own history of kind of, not necessarily even flawed past, but just, just a different time, different place, right? And then also, trying to just completely getting rid of animation, the studio that was founded on it, getting rid of it because, it makes more money. And eventually they're going to run out of shit that'll make this kind of money. And from there on, I don't know, God knows what they'll do. They'll have like 20 plus years it'll be the same thing with, see, at least with, growing up, the straight to video crap. No one really gives a shit about that anymore outside of like, hardcore Disney fans or 90s kids, but fuck them, right? The main things that were important were the things that were coming out in the theater and the ones that actually, meant something. And, but, Disney doesn't even have that now because they're just kind of aping off all that stuff. Give it 20 years time. What are they going to get ape off of? At that point, we may see like another explosion in, you know, maybe their catalog or maybe just an animation in general. But as of right now, AI, and for the far foreseeable future, they have a whole 100 plus years of things that they could just remake just for the sake of getting people in there. Because do you remember that thing? You know,
Yeah. I think I remember you saying one time something about like like a 30-year uh
the 30-year cycle. Yeah.
30-year cycle, yeah. So I mean that might happen. Want to go a little bit
Oh
into
yeah.
that?
30 years from now, we'll see. Yeah. And so for, for your audience who doesn't know, 30-year cycle is, every 30 years, things that were popular 30 years prior come back. So nostalgic wise. So in the 90s, it was 60s stuff. That's why you got like the Brady Bunch movie and the Flintstones movie and the Adams Family movie. In the 80s, it was 50s stuff. That's where it came from. The book was written in the 80s, but taking place in the 50s. And then 30 years, so in 2018, instead of taking place in the 50s like it did in the 80s, it took place in the 80s.
Yeah.
So every 30 years, and currently we're going through the 90s cycle.
Mhm.
Hence why we're seeing mainly the 90s animated Disney films being
Fuller
remade and
House.
being the most successful. Fuller House, yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so I don't know, I guess 30 years from now, um, I guess people you will see the next this Little Mermaid remake and the next Lion King remake, but this time I don't even know what the fuck they'll do then.
No, I think 30 years from now we'd probably just see just stuff that was created now, so maybe like just media that was probably a lot of stuff that references COVID, I feel like, in 30 years
Fuck
from
that.
now, but it will be like nuanced. Like we'll say different things about it. So I think that might be cool, but I don't know. I was gonna say though, like, I mean, it may just have to do with the fact that, you know, you know, like you mentioned it, right? In the 50s. What's the
Right.
writer? Stephen King.
Stephen King,
He
yeah, yeah.
probably grew up in the 50s or something like that.
Exactly.
So that's
No,
the main
that's
thing.
exactly
You
it,
know,
yeah.
that's probably why a lot of it's like that, you know. The nostalgia from when the creators were younger. So that has
Oh,
probably a lot to
absolutely.
do with it. And also the fact that, you know, the main audience that like, like young adults and kids also control the audience, but I feel like a lot of the stuff is people that are, like in their 30s or 50s. And another thing too, it's like with something like what's it called? Stranger Things. Even though that kind of goes against the 30-year thing, even though I don't know if it does, but in the sense that it's something that people watch, even younger people, and they want to be retro or something like that. They want to be
Right,
um
right.
from this time period that they thought was, oh, the good old days
Because
when there was no
or
drama and controversy or
or
whatever.
it seems almost like magical, like a different
Yeah.
like that was the world back then, like, it almost seems
Hmm. Like
like
an
almost
escape too.
unattainable. Yeah, almost like a period piece, like Victorian age,
Yeah,
like, oh, the world was actually like that and not that long ago?
exactly.
Um, but yeah, no, absolutely. I think the people who eventually grow up either create it or they create a market for it.
Yeah.
No,
I feel
absolutely.
like beside okay, so sequels, I'm just saying, like, just the sequel just has to be, just good for the story and good for the movie prior. I feel like it just has to add to it. A lot of them, the best ones, are better than the first movie, because they elaborated on it or they took it somewhere else or they knew what was great about the first one, knew the problems and fixed it. But with like remakes, reboots, it is kind of like this 30-year gap thing. And also the fact that, I mean, there's some remakes, for example, or reboots like the Suicide Squad. I think that's actually more of just a sequel, to be honest with you, because I think they confirmed that the first one happened, or I don't know. I guess she's still not dating the Joker or whatever, but still, it's kind of a reboot
I think with that, I
or a
think with
remake.
that, it's more of an accept no substitute kind of thing. Um, well, what I mean by that is like, as far as the Suicide Squad is concerned at this point, what we're talking about,
Yeah.
it's more like, why even bother with that first one, really? It's not even so much a sequel, reboot, it's just like, forget that first one, fuck it.
Yeah,
This is just the Suicide Squad, that's
exactly.
it. I mean,
The Suicide
and
Squad. That's why
so
it's called that. Yeah.
exactly, it's the one and only,
Hmm.
accept no substitute
But
kinda
yeah,
deal.
so
Um,
but with
but no,
reboots.
I agree, no.
Oh yeah, what?
I was gonna say I agree as far as a sequel, when done right, can really kind of extend
Mhm.
something that you enjoy in a very kind of naturalistic way. Reboots can work, but they have to be attached to something that works to be reestablished again and again and again, which there aren't actually a lot of things that can. And then a remake only truly works when somebody has just like that spark. A remake is almost as good as like an original idea in terms of somebody just has to have like a good angle to come in on it and or a personality to kind of imbue it with to make it its own. So at that point, it's almost like it has to be its own thing, bizarrely enough. It's like a paradoxical thing. In order to make a good remake, it almost has to have nothing to do with the original outside of like a basic template and be almost completely divorced from it. Um, in a way, and so, yeah, no, I agree, I think, yeah, a sequels tend to be the most consistent even when they're kinda not, but yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like reboots and remakes. Did you agree though, like that it is a lot about nostalgia and stuff like that? Not a lot of it just made just because they're made because of an
Oh, yeah,
existing
no, absolutely. No,
IP. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think
Yeah,
more
no, it's
could actually
because
just be made because of you know um a reason to take it a certain different direction and just something like that, not just because of
right.
nostalgia. Um, all right. You want to go to the next topic?
Let's
All
do
right,
it.
award shows. I don't know if we'll talk too much about this one. All I'm gonna say is, actually, I'm not. I'm gonna say more, but all I'm gonna say is, the 420 awards with Derek Savage. Oh yeah, let's make that the
I don't
fourth
know what that is.
largest award show in Hollywood, even though it takes place in Nevada. So,
Uh,
oh yeah,
it was Derek Savage.
it's just a guy that created these PSAs with this guy wearing a cat costume, and
Is he like your best friend?
no, I wouldn't. No, he's like almost. He's 60 now, and he's
Oh,
just.
damn, dude, so it's some, Marty
It's just.
McFly, Doc Brown
It's just
shit,
no.
right?
It's just a lolcow on the internet, and he makes content that people liked to make fun of, and then he just didn't like that, so he caused drama. That's all I'm gonna say. And
Okay, so
but all
so it's some Rick and Morty type shit then.
stop, Carlos. That's not the relationship in the thing. It's not that parasocial. And also, I don't even think he knows who
No,
I
I
exist.
thought that was your relationship with your best
No, he's
friend,
not my
Doc Savage or whatever his
Derek
name is.
doxed. Derek Savage. No, it's just some guy online that is just a laughing stock. But anyway, all I'm saying is with like award shows, it's basically how it's basically like a show. So it's like they're trying to show more than award people, to be honest with you. They want to like
Yeah,
be
no, I
elaborate with how they show things. They don't care about like awarding the VFX people or just awarding the hard work. They care more about like the political points. Like even with the guy that did Parasite, he like they were gonna take him off like after recording, and that was kind of wrong because he only recorded for like, I mean, he only not recorded, but he only was up there for like a bit, and he has to go through a translator. But they turned the lights off on him, and that's like what, like just that kind of stuff. And then it
right.
all
No,
and then it all explodes when Will Smith hears something bad about his wife or something like that, or
well,
someone
that
makes fun of
shit
his
was that
wife. I don't know.
I mean, that goes to show you the kind of relevancy, especially of the
And
Oscars,
also
but
the
I
kind
think
of
in general
people that
of
go to the Oscars. I mean, it's not really just Will Smith, it's other people that go to the Oscars that are like that. Can we really say that Will Smith is just an individual in this scenario? What if it's kind of like the Joker kind of situation where everyone's like him, you know? But in a bad way. Cuz
I
it's
don't know
kind of
about
good that
I don't know about that.
people like are like the Joker, right? It was kind of a good thing in the sense that there are these like
I don't
underdogs or whatever.
I don't think that was the
Okay, you
point of
know
the
what?
movie.
I'm just saying it's like it's basically just whatever you're trying to tell me you're funny, Carlos. But all I'm saying is in a bad way though, because there are a lot of people that are just impulsive and all this stuff and
Sure.
just I don't know. It's it's
Well,
just
what I was gonna
yeah, what are you
say
gonna say? No, just go.
what I was gonna say about awards show was No, that whole Will Smith slap really kinda showed the antiquated sense of these things,
Well, it's not really, it doesn't
back in
show how not important it is. It just shows, like, just,
no,
the kinda things
it
that
does.
that the lengths that, it has taken people, you know?
No, it does show because immediately after, I think,
Maybe this
I
system
I
creates people like Will Smith and stuff like that, you know?
I don't know
You
about
don't
that.
think
All I
so?
know is that, uh, immediately after Will Smith slapped, Chris Rock, um, they had people from The Godfather show up to talk about The Godfather, and I was just like, "I don't give a flying fuck about this shit." I think, to be honest, the back in the day, television and movies, they were almost used like travelogue, where, if a movie was gonna take place outside of the country, it was almost like, you were gonna go watch because this was before social media, so or any kind of form of the internet, so you can't just type in Cancun and look at pictures of fucking Cancun, right? And so you would watch a movie where they go to Cancun, maybe the movie sucks, but hey, at least you get to see Cancun,
Yeah.
right? Get to see these beautiful shots of Cancun. And award shows were kinda like that too, as far as watching the other side live, and when they were coming out, during, the rise of television, it was very much, this is almost like our American royalty. But now, man, especially in a post-COVID world, I think everybody's just really sick and tired of, like, people who are, like, really rich, kind of in general, but specifically celebrating themselves, and there's just nothing to really kind of attach yourself to anymore. There's no real sense of like, you know, I there's no real sense of awe. There's no real sense of relatability for like the everyman, to kind of go, oh yeah, those guys got it or whatever. I mean, every now and again, and this is even, I like a lot of the people who got awards during the Oscars, but I didn't give a fuck about the Oscars still. I was glad that a lot of the freaks that I love or getting recognition, but at the same time, there was always this, like, aftertaste of, like, "Yeah, but this don't mean shit." Guillermo del Toro and Taika Waititi and, the Daniels and Bong Joon-ho and Jordan Peele and all that stuff, Ryan Coogler even, and it was always great to see them, get this stuff, but it was just like it always felt like hollow words, not that they were saying hollow words when they were accepting their awards, but that it was almost like the people giving them these awards were almost like, "Ah, here,
They don't
like,
really
whatever."
care.
It just felt very disingenuous to feel like, "Oh, we're propping up these artists, and these are also artists of color and of different backgrounds," and I'm just like, "It's just a load of shit," just to kind of get in good stock with the public, and
And
and I
also,
I'm just
I
not
mean,
about that.
I agree, like, in celebrating these cultures, but at the same time, why can't someone, not just be, um, you know, like, why does it have to be all political in that sense? Why can't it just be about someone that made a great movie, you know? Like Parasite was all about the Asian, you know, thing about it, but at the same time it's just a great movie, you know? I'm happy because I'm Asian,
Yes.
I'm
The
Korean.
issue the
I relate,
issue
but
the issue is because you're also growing up in a time where that's a lot more common, and, at this point, especially with, Asian entertainment, it's practically everywhere from all sorts of different parts of the world. It wasn't when Parasite was coming out. It wasn't it w and it wasn't also that long ago where you didn't see Asian people in almost anything outside of, like, subservient roles, outside of, like, gag roles, outside of, like man, think about this real quick. If back in the day, man, back in the day, one of the best representations of Asian people in general was Harold and Kumar. Like, as far as American films were concerned. And that was most people's like uh um exposure to that in entertainment was which is not a bad thing. That first Harold and Kumar is really solid. But if that's your only real form of that, of course you're gonna want to kind of prop up, Asian, creators because you want to see, those people, you want to see Asian people continue to create new things and kind of, but we're at a point now where things need to change as far as once again, it's another, it's the Academy just wanting to get in stock, and it's like, okay, we get it, and it is, I think, deserved. I don't think Parasite is Bong Joon-ho's best film by far, but it is deserved for him and his crew because I do think that yeah, Bong Joon-ho, I fucking love that dude. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, give it to him for this. Fuck it, why not? He's probably not going to get it later for something that probably is deserved. But um, yeah, I think the thing is, it's just taking much more thought into it, other than just, well, he's Asian, like you said, like, yeah, make a good movie and then go from there. But it's also about taking into consideration, propping up voices that don't have, that exposure. We have it now and it's everywhere, which is a good thing. It's a great thing. Um, but I think the moment we kind of like forget about how it used to be, where it wasn't that, and if anything, it was actually kind of detrimental because you have, I mean, yeah, no, you want to look at like how it used to be, look at Asian actors or characters in the '80s. It's not a pretty sight.
What are you talking
And
about?
so
Rush Hour? Like, what are you talking about?
that was not the '80s.
Oh, the 90s, right?
Rush Rush Hour was '98, yes.
Okay. Was that a
And
good
I'm talking about
representation?
American cinema too. I don't know. How do you feel about the insult, sweet and sour chicken ass?
To be honest, I haven't watched that movie in a while, so I don't remember. I mean, anything with Bruce
It's
Lee,
a fun
like
movie. It is. It's a fun movie, so I'd
I know
recommend
that's
that
not
shit.
Bruce Lee, that's Jackie Chan. I'm just saying in general with yeah. I mean,
That was Jackie Chan?
yeah, well, in Rush Hour, but I'm talking about just
It was?
yeah.
That wasn't Bruce Lee in Rush Hour?
No, 1998.
Oh my god.
Bruce
All
Lee
this time I
died.
thought it was Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee died in like long time ago. What?
I know it's Jackie Chan.
Okay. Okay. Well, I don't know what that was all about then, but okay. Um anyway, you have anything else to say about award shows?
Yeah, man, I kinda hope their irrelevancy continues, that the numbers keep on dropping because yeah, they're pretty lame.
Dang. Yeah, they're just like the uncle you just want to shut up, you know?
I guess,
I
maybe.
know. You just want to
I think they're more like the person who didn't have money and now has a shit ton of money and constantly talks about how much money they have, and you want them to shut the fuck up.
yeah, and they're not culturally significant at all. But they say they are. All right.
Oh, yeah,
Let's go
yeah.
to the next one. Upcoming attractions. We've already talked about a
Is
few.
it the last one?
Yep, we've already talked about a few.
Okay.
You know, Transformers just came out recently. You know,
Mhm.
a banger, kind of. I haven't
Would you
watched.
say
I
that?
haven't watched it now. I know there's
Oh,
this
okay.
one joke in it that I'm not gonna spoil, but I heard like either people groan or laughed their butt off. Um,
Okay, so spoil it, for your listeners, for the next, I don't know, 30 seconds, just close your
all right.
ears.
Yeah.
Close your ears and shut your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the spoiler is there's a part where the main guy goes into a car, right? And then
Uh-huh.
it's a transformer or whatever. And
Right.
then there was a scene where his friend, not the friend of the transformer, but the friend of the guy that went inside the car, and
Uh-huh.
he was like, who is this?" Because he was in the actual like transformer, um, you know, uh build. He was actually just a transformer. It was in a car. And then he was
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh, that's just one of my work friends." He was the guy, not the transformer. And then the transformer was like, "Oh, we are more than work friends. You were inside me."
Oh, okay.
And everyone
I
apparently
think it
groaned, but I actually laughed because someone told me that joke, and I thought that was the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I think it would've been funnier if it was the female Transformer.
Yeah, I think it was like, God, dude, Pete Davidson, I think. That's who I think. Uh,
He's a Transformer? He's voicing a
yeah,
Transformer?
and that was the one. Yeah. that he voiced.
Holy
That's
shit.
funny. You're
That dude's
inside me.
everywhere this year.
He's everywhere.
That dude is
He was in
everywhere.
Fast X.
Yeah, he was in Fast X, he was in Guardians Volume
He
3.
might be in Barbie
He
as one
has
of
a
the Kens.
I wouldn't be surprised. Shit, he's probably in Oppenheimer too. He plays as, Albert Einstein underneath all that makeup.
No, he would not play Albert Einstein. It would probably be he'd never play
"Hey,
serious
it's
roles.
me. E equals MC squared."
Stop. No, do that again, bro. No. Oh, we could talk a little bit about that though. Like, there's also like Across the Spider-Verse. Like,
Oh, he's in that too?
no, no, stop. It's just a movie that exists, that's new and upcoming kind of. And
And it has Pete Davidson in it.
no, and I mean that one's culturally significant, I'd say, with all the Legos
Because there's no Pete Davidson in
and
it?
the no, stop. We're trying to have a serious conversation here, Carlos, and all you talking about is
Okay,
Pete
okay,
Davidson.
okay. Um,
To be honest, I didn't even know who Pete Davidson was until I realized, oh wait, that's his name. Because I recognize him for his face, but not his name, which is weird.
how do you not know who Pete
I know
Davidson
who it
is?
is. I just don't recognize the name all the time. I always just recognize the face. His face. Okay,
His face came off.
stop. I know it did. He's gonna be in the next Face Off. It's gonna be a reboot or remake. That would okay. Hold on. I think Face Off actually came out in the '90s. You know what that means?
No, that was 2002.
It's gonna okay. Then that means it's gonna come out in like 2042.
Yeah, something like that.
2042. We're gonna see Pete Davidson in, unless he's not culturally
No, that's
significant.
2030,
Oh
2032.
yeah, 30. Yeah. Is he gonna be culturally significant in a decade? Who knows? That would be funny
Yeah,
if he
maybe.
was. I really
I
need to
guess
see a
I
Pete Davidson Face Off. Like,
movie?
no, just of the Face
Oh,
Off.
Face Off.
He's Nicolas Cage. He's the Nicolas Cage one. I don't know who would be the John Travolta type, but it would have to be someone that's like,
Zendaya.
why Zendaya? It has to be a guy.
So so, getting back to topic, uh, I guess, for me, as far as the new releases are concerned, I really don't care about the majority of them,
Across the Spider Verse
'cause
though.
I got my what's up?
Across the Spider Verse though.
Well, that's animation. I'm different with it when it comes to especially, theatrical animation. I always kinda support it differently. Um,
All right.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that, but I'm talking about more like live action genre
Okay
fare.
then. The
Um,
Flash, Oppenheimer,
nah.
Barbie.
Oppenheimer is s so, Oppenheimer's for the dudes, for all my boys who wanna go see Oppenheimer, right? And then Barbie's for all the girls, all my, lady
All your
friends,
shotties.
that wanna go see all my shawties who wanna go see it.
Oh
I
yeah,
if
you have
on
so
my
many of
own, I
those,
wouldn't
don't you,
actually
Carlos? That was so mean.
I on my own I on my own probably wouldn't go see it, even though I think both of them I'm kinda, like, optimistic about, but it's more of like a communal thing. I got friends who wanna go see those movies, we're gonna go see those
Oh
movies.
yeah.
But, I'm already kinda satisfied as far as the summer blockbuster season is concerned, is a bit what I was actually saying, because, I got my high fantasy with the Dungeons& and Dragons film that came out, and I got my space opera with Guardians Volume 3, and honestly, I'm good. Everything else didn't really seem all too interesting to me outside of the newest Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah, what's the let me think of the other ones that are coming out. Yeah, there's not really any big like
Oh, and Fast X, of
oh, what
course.
about David Fincher's film that's coming out in December?
I didn't even know he had a film coming out
Yeah,
in December. I
it's
was
like
also just talking about, summer
oh
blockbuster
yeah.
season too.
Yeah, it's like The Assassin or something. But yeah, I don't know. There's not really too much big
Yeah,
film.
like that newest Transformers movie, it's like, man, I don't give a fuck.
Exactly. I mean, I might watch it now that I know that joke's in it.
I might watch it now because Davidson is
Okay,
in it.
all right, dude. You gotta stop. All right. I really gotta know who's gonna play the John Travolta type. Cause like we got to know the
If
cultural significance of.
are you still on this?
Yes, okay, so Nicolas Cage, the cultural significance.
Zendaya.
Stop! Why? She wasn't in a Pulp
Because
Fiction.
she has cultural significance, and it doesn't matter. They can't have 2 white dudes, and they can't have 2 dudes, so put in Zendaya and, just
It
have
would make
her
the
say
movie
the
not
whole
make sense because there's gonna be a point where they have to switch faces, and then one's gonna have
exactly.
certain parts that the other doesn't have.
Man, it didn't even make sense in Face Off.
I know, but it made enough sense to where you could do it. You could switch faces, and you couldn't
Think it'd
recognize.
be funnier. They do some early Captain America shit where they just move the body onto what you know what I mean? And so Pete
Okay.
Davidson is, like, half his height, and then Zendaya is, like, twice as tall.
Alright, I don't know if they have to actually explain it in the movie. They could just literally just have the other person play the other, like how they did it with John Travolta, Nicolas Cage. I mean, I don't know
But you
how.
see what we're talking about here?
I don't.
You see, we're talking about this stuff more because a lot of the stuff that's coming out, at least in the summer, is not that interesting. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really care about, like,
Like, okay,
you
okay,
know,
I'm
The
sorry,
Flash.
but like, how did she not know? How did she not know that was not her husband when they, had the do? I know it's been
Oh,
a
I'm done.
while,
I'm
but
done.
what?
I'm done with
Okay,
this. It's
why?
over.
Why? Okay, fine. I'm just
You know what
saying.
movie I am looking forward to?
What?
That is not part of the blockbuster season? Is Taika Waititi's next
Oh,
film.
yeah, yeah, that one actually looks. I heard
The next school
from what
wins.
I heard, the edit is, the editing is everything for this film, Like, the original cut was okay, but the new cut, you know, pretty nice. I'm not gonna explain why I know that, but all I'm saying is,
Okay.
yeah, top secret stuff
I
from
mean, I
this.
guess it makes kinda sense just because of Taika Waititi's style and the way that he executes his films, but, no, I'm looking forward to that. It does look funny, and it looks like I really loved his film Hunt for the Wilder
Yep.
People and Boy,
I
and so
actually
it looks
never
like it's kind
watched
of
Boy,
off the
but I
same.
watched, the Shark.
Boy is great.
I watched, Eagle versus Shark instead, but I wanna watch Boy. Eagle versus
Yeah,
Shark
Eagle
was
vs.
weird,
Shark is yeah, that's proto Taika Waititi, that's before he really found his
but,
voice. Boy
I
is
don't know
really where
about
he, like,
I don't know
arrived.
about JoJo though, but I like some parts
JoJo's great.
of
I
JoJo.
really like
Yeah.
JoJo too.
Um, anyway, I guess we can, do you have anything else to say about upcoming attractions?
Upcoming what?
Upcoming attractions, upcoming movies, all that?
Oh, uh, I guess we'll see how the holiday season goes, but for the most part, it looks pretty barren this year as far as like, you know, movies
Yeah.
in general. There's some ones that are coming out from, journeyman directors. There was that new Nicole Holdsefner film called You Hurt My Feelings that I went to go see. That was actually really good. That's with Julia Dreyfus? Who's the lady from Seinfeld? What's
Eh, the main one? Like,
the only lady in Seinfeld,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. Um, the curly haired one, right? I don't know what her name is, but I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what you're
yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and,
cool.
but it was good.
All right.
It was a good film too, and so, there's some new voices here and there. There was a film, I forget what it was called, it took place in New York. It was pretty good.
What movie doesn't
And so,
exist in
yeah,
there?
You Hurt My Feelings.
And yeah.
No, I'm kidding, that one does. That one
Oh,
does.
I thought you're actually saying you hurt my feelings, but also a lot of movies also just exist in LA. It's either LA or New York and maybe Florida.
I don't think where does Guardians take place?
But just stop. No, that exists in space, my guy.
Oh, you can't film in space, though.
It exists in a studio in LA. Does that help? In
Oh,
Hollywood.
okay, yeah, thank you. Hey, there you're right. Hey,
Yeah, I
LA.
gotta calm down. Anyway, I think we'll end it there.
But yeah,
Carlos,
alright, cool.
do you have anything you'd like to shout out? Any social medias, any YouTube, Instagram, OnlyFans, any of that?
No, but thank you for having me, man.
Oh
I
yeah,
appreciate it.
no problem. So, you guys check my socials in the description. You know how it is. Let me know how you feel about, Carlos in the comments below. Let me know if you'd like to hear from him again. I sure do. And thanks for listening to this week's podcast. And you will hear me next week talking to somebody else about something else. All right. So, have a good day. Yes. And, think about what we said because we said a lot. So, yeah, have a good time.